Here are 10 legendary men who fought for African freedom, risking, and often losing, their lives to liberate their people from colonialism, oppression, and injustice. Number 1. Did you know Jomo Kenyatta? Jomo Kenyatta was born around 1897, in a Kenya controlled by British colonial rule. From a young age, he saw his people lose their land, dignity, and voice. That injustice planted a fire in his heart, a fire that would one day change Kenya forever. Kenyatta traveled abroad to study and later became a powerful African voice in London, speaking boldly against colonial oppression. When he returned home, the British viewed him as dangerous. In 1952, he was arrested and accused of leading the Mau Mau uprising. He spent nearly 9 years in prison, but prison could not silence his dream of a free Kenya. Instead, Kenyatta became a symbol of resistance. Kenyans across the country demanded his release, and in 1961, he finally walked free. Just 2 years later, in 1963, Kenya gained independence. Kenyatta became the country's first prime minister, and in 1964, he became Kenya's first president. As president, Kenyatta ruled Kenya for about 15 years, from 1964 until his death in 1978. He focused on national unity, economic growth, and stability, encouraging Kenyans to live by one word, Harambee, let us pull together. On August 22, 1978, Jomo Kenyatta died while still in office. His death marked the end of an era. Jomo Kenyatta ruled for 15 years and left behind a nation that had finally taken control of its own destiny. His legacy remains, as the father of the Kenyan nation and one of Africa's greatest freedom fighters. Number 2. Patrice Lumumba, DR Congo. What if Africa's future was stolen before it even began? In 1960, one man stood before the world and spoke the truth about colonialism, without fear. His name was Patrice Lumumba, and his voice shook empires. Patrice Lumumba was born in 1925 in the Belgian Congo. Unlike many leaders of his time, he rose from humble beginnings, working as a clerk, journalist, and political thinker. But Lumumba saw what others ignored. A country rich in gold, diamonds, and minerals, yet its people lived in poverty under brutal colonial rules. In the 1950s, Lumumba became a powerful nationalist voice. He believed Congo didn't just need independence, it needed real freedom, unity, and control over its own resources. In 1960, Congo finally gained independence, and Patrice Lumumba became its first prime minister. At the independence ceremony, while others praised Belgium, Lumumba did the unthinkable. He spoke openly about forced labor, racism, beatings, and humiliation under colonial rule. His speech shocked the world, and angered powerful foreign interests. But to Africans everywhere, Lumumba became a symbol of courage and truth. Only months later, Lumumba was overthrown, arrested, and betrayed. In 1961, at just 35 years old, he was assassinated with the involvement of foreign powers. They killed the man, but not the message. Today, Patrice Lumumba is remembered as a martyr of African freedom. A man who refused to bow. A leader who spoke when silence was safer. And a reminder that Africa's struggle for true independence is far from over. Number 3. Nelson Mandela. He spent nearly 3 decades in prison. But when freedom finally came, he chose peace over revenge. This is the story of Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, the man who changed South Africa forever. Nelson Mandela was born in 1918 in the village of Mvizo, South Africa. Raised in a royal Themba family, he learned leadership and responsibility early in life. As he grew older, Mandela witnessed the cruelty of apartheid, a system that denied black South Africans basic human rights. Mandela joined the African National Congress to fight apartheid. At first, the struggle was peaceful. But as the government responded with violence, arrests, and killings, Mandela believed stronger resistance was necessary. Standing up for freedom made him a target. In 1962, Mandela was arrested and sentenced to life imprisonment. For 27 long years, he was locked away, most of them on Robben Island. The goal was to silence him. Instead, prison turned Mandela into a global symbol of resistance. In 1990, Mandela was released from prison. 4 years later, in 1994, he became South Africa's first black president. Mandela ruled the country for 5 years, from 1994 to 1999. During his presidency, he focused on national unity, reconciliation, and healing a deeply divided nation. Nelson Mandela stepped down after one term, choosing democracy over power. He passed away in 2013 at the age of 95. Though he ruled for only 5 years, his impact will last forever. Mandela proved that forgiveness can be stronger than hatred, and that true leadership serves the people, not power. Nelson Mandela didn't just free South Africa. He inspired the world. Number 4. Dedan Kimathi. They called him a rebel, a terrorist, an enemy of the British Empire. But to Kenya, he became a symbol of resistance. This is the story of Dedan Kimathi. Dedan Kimathi Wasuri was born in 1920 in Nyeri, in central Kenya. He grew up watching his people lose their land, dignity, and freedom under British colonial rule. As injustice spread, Kimathi chose resistance over silence. In the early 1950s, Dedan Kimathi became a leading commander of the Mau Mau movement, a guerrilla force fighting to reclaim stolen land and independence. From the forests of Mount Kenya and the Aberdares, Kimathi organized fighters, planned attacks, and inspired courage among the oppressed. To the British, he was dangerous. To his people, he was hope. In 1956, after years of pursuit, Dedan Kimathi was wounded and captured by British forces. He was put on trial in a colonial court, a court that had already decided his fate. The resistance had lost its leader, but the fire of freedom still burned. In 1957, Dedan Kimathi was sentenced to death. He was hanged by the British colonial government at Kamatai prison. His body was buried in an unmarked grave, as the empire tried to erase his memory. But history had other plans. Kenya gained independence in 1963. Years later, Dedan Kimathi was officially recognized as a national hero. Today, statues stand in his honor, a reminder that freedom is never given, only taken. Dedan Kimathi died fighting for Kenya. And in death, he became immortal.